Hello, this is an asynchronous professional development session on providing versatile vocabulary instruction, part 2. This was provided in September 2020. My name is Dr. Mitchell, and I'm the literacy specialist on campus for grades K through 5. Let's begin. In this session, we'll review the following objectives: to determine characteristics of effective vocabulary instruction, to focus in on academic schema as well as domain-specific vocabulary. We will utilize text to pull vocabulary for the purposes of categorization and strategy. And we'll learn a 6-step process provided to us from Marzano, as well as a 7-step process from Calderon for the use of teaching vocabulary. And we will review strategies for determining meaning of vocabulary within context. So now the word of the day is most definitely vocabulary. Vocabulary, which is the body of words used in a particular language. Our Tennessee Department of Education tells us that vocabulary is the largest determinant of comprehension of language. Well, good vocabulary instruction helps children gain ownership of words instead of just learning them well enough to pass a test. So, good vocabulary instruction provides multiple exposures through rich, thought out, and varied activities to meaningful information about a specific word. To dive in further, our National Reading Panel and the National Institute for Literacy tells us that students learn vocabulary in 2 different ways: indirectly and directly. So first, students learn vocabulary indirectly when they hear and see words used in many different contexts. For example, through conversations with adults, through being read to, and through reading extensively on their own. Now, while scholars are with licensed and certified educators, we want to make sure that students learn vocabulary directly when they are explicitly taught both individual words and word learning strategies. This is our focus for today. The first strategy is the 7 steps by Calderon, which is an excellent strategy for those students who are identified as SPED or even ESL. Why is that? Because Calderon tells us that the scaffold of these 7 steps will help students acquire and associate vocabulary to help them further along the line of fluency and comprehension. Step 1 is for students to become familiar with the word by manipulating the word and saying the word, repetition. Step 2, Calderon tells us to use sentences from the text with the word embedded within the sentence. Step 3, determine the definition. Well, what features do you see? How is it used within the sentence? How is it used within text or a paragraph? Determine the definition. Step 4, write it out, practice it, make it your own, and provide a meaningful sentence for the word that the students have created. Step 5, what are some aspects of the word? Prefix, suffix, root. Tell us about the word. Step 6, engage the word. Make it fun. And step 7, reading some oral written language with the word embedded within text. Make it beautiful into a storyline. The 7 steps by Calderon, best for ESL and SPED identified. Now, let's take a look at this video. And our focus for watching will be to identify those 7 features presented to us by Calderon, but also determine what other groups of students may benefit from this explicit vocabulary instruction. Let's hone in.
Ron, I think Millie is bored. Dogs need a lot of exercise. Good reading, good job. All right, I want you to look right here on your paper at the glossary definition. The glossary definition says dull, lacks interest in one's current activity, repetitive. All right, for the student-friendly definition, I want you all to read it with me. Are you ready? Ready, read. Nothing to do. Or nothing to do. All right, go ahead and close your books and put them up here. We're going to play our ping-pong activity with this vocabulary word. We'll get to the book in just a minute. All right, are you ready? Do you remember how to play ping-pong? So today you two will be partners and you 3 will be partners. The short-haired partner is going to go first. And you get a point each time your partner uses the word, what's our word? Bored. Okay. And every time you use it correctly, you get a point. Remember honesty. You have to be honest about it. And you can't, the next person can't start talking until the other person finishes. Okay, I'll come around and help you. But before we get started, I want you to see the sentence starters right down here that I gave to help you with. All right, there's some sentence starters. I wrote, I am bored when. I am bored when blank makes me feel bored. Well, let's look at some of the examples I wrote. I am bored when I'm in the car riding to West Virginia. Being stuck in the house on a rainy day makes me feel bored. Are you ready to play ping pong? Yeah. All right, signpost up. Short hair goes first, so that means you start. All right, the 3 of you, I'm going to come around and make sure you're being honest. Ready? Go. Your tablet doesn't have any gas. Good. Keep up. Who's keeping your points? You all right too? It's your turn, Jessie. Good job.
I am bored. I'm bored when I'm stuck in a car.
How long did you go? Oh, you guys only have 2 points. Your turn.
I am bored when I'm staying home and I want to go to the park.
You have 3 points. Your turn.
I am bored when I'm stuck in the house on a rainy day.
Isn't that the same thing she just said? Try to see if you can come up with a new sentence. Oscar, can you help him come up with a new sentence?
I am bored. I have nobody to play on the Xbox. I am bored when I can't find my tab.
That's a good one.
I am bored.
All right, stop. How many points did you guys get? 4? How many points did you guys get?
I think 3.
3. All right, let's do final back. And let's do some fireworks. Ready? Good job using the word bored. See, bored is an adjective. It's an adjective because it describes someone or something. All right, I want you.
So now let's talk about the 7 features that this teacher brought out about the word bored. Bored, B-O-R-E-D. She allowed the students to get familiar with the word with a lot of repetition of the word bored. The teacher also had text, a hard copy of a book with the word bored embedded, as well as a separate sheet of paper with additional text with the word bored. The teacher offered a direct definition for the word bored, but also allowed the students to determine the meaning of the word bored through the text given. The teacher didn't allow them to write, however, she gave them a sentence frame. I am bored when to use the word in context correctly. Some aspects of the word that she discussed was that bored was an adjective. And why is bored an adjective? Because it's describing how you feel. Even though we did not see in this video, she allowed for the students at a later time to engage in the word through ping pong using the word bored. And of course, the students summarized the text with the word bored. Marzano tells us that you don't necessarily have to do a scaffold as Marzano, but you can use these one of 6 strategies, such as describing, restating, drawing, activities, discussing, and games. These particular steps in vocabulary will help students identify and associate what the word is and how it is used. Vocabulary and context is another strategy in teaching explicit vocabulary. In text, students may see synonyms associated with words. The index of sentences may incorporate an antonym to determine an opposite meaning of the word given. Sometimes authors will use a direct definition within text to give the reader a specific definition. And with a definition, authors sometimes give a series of examples as to further explain the unfamiliar word. But then if it is a concept and not just a single word, authors will use a general sense to help readers understand the unfamiliar phrase. Now, in pulling out vocabulary for text, be sure to categorize academic vocabulary, which is defined as words that are traditionally used in academic dialogue and text and can be used across contents. Don't forget to categorize schema vocabulary, which would be an internal representation of a specific text that is focused in on the reader. The basal that is being used, for example, vocabulary may be in accordance to the characters, the events, the settings, or the nuances of what is being expressed through vocabulary. And most definitely, don't forget the domain-specific vocabulary, which is directly related to a specific content in which one is studying. Now, let's practice vocabulary and context, which we have synonyms, antonyms, direct definitions, examples, or a general sense to determine the meaning of unfamiliar words. First word, curious. Do you like to build with blocks? Are you curious about how solar panels turn rays into electricity? Have you wondered how planes stay in the air? Do you wonder why putting gas into cars causes the wheels to turn? Pause for a moment. The word curious. What do you see? And how would you determine the meaning of the word curious by the context clues that the authors give? Well, we have a series of questions. And in those series of questions, I see the word wondered and wonder. So then, therefore, the author has used synonyms for the word curious. To be curious is to wonder and to ask questions. Not only does the author use synonyms within text, but the syntax of questions allows the reader to connect the questions to being curious. What wonderful technical writing. Let's look at the next word. Do you like to design and create new things? Well, the author has used the conjunction and to connect design and create. So then therefore, design must mean to create. Let's go a little further. A mechanical engineer is responsible for coming up with and designing mechanical systems. Mechanical systems can include machine design, heating and cooling equipment, power generation, and product design. Products, like the latest cell phone, begin with an engineer coming up with an idea. This is a concept of a role of a person, a mechanical engineer. Well, based on how this paragraph is written, the author is giving us a general sense, a definition, as well as some examples as to what a mechanical engineer is and does. For example, mechanical engineer, he designs mechanical systems. Mechanical engineer works with what? Heating, cooling equipment, power generation, product design. And further, if you want products that require engineering, then you would want to contact a mechanical engineer. Last sentence, products like the latest cell phone begin with an engineer to come up with the idea. Let's move on. Now at this point, during our synchronous session, teachers were able to share their pre-recorded vocabulary instruction to share with one another. And we offered feedback on whether or not the teacher used Calderon's 7 steps, pieces of Marzano's 6-step, or the vocabulary and context. Here is an example of what was done. The current word in the CKLA curriculum for first grade is milkmaid. So then I pulled out the text. Peggy, the milkmaid, was going to the market. I'll buy the plumpest or fattest chickens, said the milkmaid, from Farmer Brown, and they will lay eggs each morning. So then what is a milkmaid? A milkmaid is someone who may work with milk. A milkmaid is someone who may live on a farm. But does a milkmaid only work with milk? No. How do we know? Because it says that she's going to the market and she's going to buy the plumpest and the fattest chickens. So not only does she milk the cows, but she helps on the farm with other farming needs. And then she's going to help with getting or collecting the eggs that the chickens have laid. So now that I know that a milkmaid, compound word, is a lady who helps with milking the cows, but also helps in additional ways on the farm, what are some synonyms we can say for a milkmaid? We can call her a cowgirl, dirt farmer, cowhand, cowpoke, cattleman, buckaroo, or just a farmer. Now that we know what a milkmaid is, write a meaningful sentence using milkmaid to show me that you know the context of the word. Here is a sentence frame. Peggy the milkmaid went to the market to fill in that sentence frame using your own words. Now, this was vocabulary part 2. What were the biggest takeaways of this session?